Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCrab Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Moses, The Missing, available on Amazon. Also brought to you by Elam Mythical, the think tank of the future. The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, now on Amazon. Also, Hayutan Music, check out our latest at hayutanmusic.com. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's acclaimed singer-songwriter from Dayton, Ohio, spent 45 years as a lawyer, and before he returned to his own musical career in 2009, he began his career as a teenager playing guitar and writing music, and also drawing inspiration from rich country and Americana traditions. And he has numerous followers on Spotify, YouTube, and all the platforms as well. He previously did Dark Stretch of Road, A Few Good Years, and he's got his latest release called Last Hope for the Modern World. What's that all about? Live, ladies and gentlemen, plus twos in beautiful downtown Dayton, Ohio. The amazing accomplished singer, songwriter, spent 45 years lawyer from Dayton, Ohio, part of MTS Records, the multi-talented Tim Ty of Midnight Sky. Tim, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on board, Tim. So you're an acclaimed singer-songwriter from Dayton, Ohio, spent 45 years as a lawyer before returning to your musical career in '09. You began your career as a teenager playing guitar and writing music. You also drew inspiration from rich country and Americana traditions, numerous followers on Spotify, YouTube, and all the platforms out there. And you also did Dark Stretch of Road, A Few Good Years. And you also have a new album out. We'll be playing a title track at the end of audio video called Last Hope for the Modern World. And before getting all that, Tim, tell us how you first got started.
Well, you have to go back to, I guess, high school, maybe even junior high school. And, like millions of other people, I wanted to be a rock star. And I got a guitar and, I learned how to play. And I started out by writing song parodies because I think that's pretty common. I was more comfortable with the words than the music. And, but except for like Weird Al, that doesn't get you very far. So at some point I started writing the music. Yeah. And at that point I thought, well, I don't know if they're any good or not, but I can write a song. And I kept on writing. Now it's 3 albums later.
Mm-hmm. And certainly 3 albums as well, too. I'll get to that. And was it one precise moment that simply influenced you into what you do in the rest of your career?
I met a guy on a trip who was a periodontist from Charleston, South Carolina, and he made an album. It was a country album, songs that he'd written. They weren't very good, but I thought, well, I could do this. And I talked to a buddy of mine here in town who's a musician, and he introduced me to a really, really talented sound engineer named Gary King. And my first thought was, I really wanted to do a couple of good songwriting demos because that was sort of always my dream was to sell songs to somebody else. And we did 2 demos and they sounded pretty good. So we kept on going, and eventually we packaged it up and Dark Stretch of Road was born.
Okay. All right. And plus, you also had a few good years as well, too. And, talk more about that.
Well, I thought when I released Dark Stretch of Road, that would probably be it. I put an album out. I thought it was good stuff. Technically, I think it's excellent. And I kept writing and I kept recording. And it's like the more I recorded, the more I wanted to write. And I think, frankly, I got better at writing. Practice matters in almost everything. So, then A Few Good Years came out, and I kept on writing and I kept on recording, and before you know it, it's Last Hope for the Modern World.
And certainly does as well, too. And you've written a number of songs. And what do you base your lyrics on, mainly?
My marriage ended in 2016 after about 40 years.
Wow.
And after that, fairly advanced age, I started dating. And that provided me with loads of inspiration, some good, some not so good. but it really had a profound influence on the topics that I wrote about. And I think the amount of detail and authenticity that I could bring to these songs, because they weren't, there are many songs that I think anybody writes that they're not inspired by a specific person or a specific event. They're just, we bring all the experience we have in life to bear on any sort of artistic endeavor. But there are quite a few songs that came out of, the dating life, where they're just very specific. There's a lot of detail that really happened, or things that I really felt. And I don't wish on anybody the end of a marriage, but I guess you have to look for the bright spot in things, and inspiration. I got lots of it.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of inspiration, who are some of your favorite singers, songwriters, and musicians growing up?
Dylan, love Dylan. I love the whole, almost like the musical genealogy, starting with, you could go back as far as, Jimmy Rogers, Woody Guthrie, then you get Dylan, and then Dylan sort of gives birth to the Byrds, and that gives birth to Tom Petty. All of them, I think, excellent writers. There's a simplicity in a lot of the songs that all those guys did. A lot of 3-chord songs, a lot of, not a lot of, modal stuff, complicated stuff. And that's pretty much the way I write. I've told people every song I write starts out with 3 chords. Sometimes I add a few, sometimes I don't. But kind of the Neil Diamond approach to songwriting.
That is rather interesting. One of my favorites as well, too. You also wrote some really good ones too, like Long Way Back to Home, and also Way Out West, Just Wait, 12th Street Serenade, plus Last Hope for the Modern World with Tim Tide, Midnight Sky. We'll get that in just 1 minute. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SoundCrab Studios. Visit online at soundcrabstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SoundCrab Studios is the answer. SoundCrab Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@soundcrabstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. SoundCrab Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has got great reviews. An Evil Evident Joys by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes, Riley, and Eminem. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also coming soon to Amazon, Missing 2 by Mia Molson-Zia, double suspense, double the fun, double the action. Check it out, coming soon on Amazon.com. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Illumnifically, think tank of the future, brings scientists and engineers together from all over the world, creating a method to construct a renewable generator. This unique product operates on a closed loop system, generating more energy internally than it needs to function. The excess electricity can be used to run everything from homes, power grids, phones, and laptops. This power source is renewable, highly scalable, and most importantly, self-regenerate. For more information, visit facebook.com/Illumnethical. That's ELLUMENIPTICAL today. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by A Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives a new perspective on David through the Psalms he wrote and his time as a shepherd, where it all started, and his complicated yet turbulent relationship with King Saul. It's a story of love, betrayal, repentance, and more. Check out Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, available on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist, Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by High 10 Music, featuring the smash hit Baby Come Back. New music coming soon. Check it out. High10music.com. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com or 40 podcast platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble. Make sure you take us with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast, t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. If you're interested in any of the merchandise, email me, the Mike Wagner Show at gmail.com. Also, check out the Me and Muslim Zia store on Amazon for great books, merchandise, and more. And subscribe to Mike Wagner Show on YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. And make sure you support us on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here a terrific acclaimed singer, songwriter from Dayton, Ohio. Spent 45 years as a lawyer, and now he's with Midnight Sky. Tim Ty here on the Mike Wagner Show with Last Hope for the Modern World. And before we get to all that, you spent 45 years as a lawyer. And, tell us more about that.
I started out, my mother was a lawyer, and, that inspired me. And I had a degree in political science, which, if that's what you've got, you pretty much have to go to some kind of tech or trade school if you're going to earn a living. So I went to law school, and it was a good choice for me. A lot of lawyers aren't very happy being lawyers, but, I loved it then, and I still love it. I'm not working at that as hard as I used to, but it's somewhere to go during the day. I'm still having fun at it, and I have time for that. I have time for the music. It's a nice balance.
Mm-hmm. And certainly it does. And what type of law are you currently practicing?
Now I'm doing what's called transactional. It doesn't involve trial work. It's contracts, real estate, that kind of thing. So it's an office practice. It's very, very easy to manage my time. There's not a lot of wasted time driving around waiting for something to start. It's a nice gig.
Mm-hmm. And have you been doing this for quite some time, or what were some of the practices you were doing, during a law career of 45 years?
I'm not sure how to answer that. We've all got war stories, but nothing really comes to mind off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. And what was the most interesting, situation you ever been in, like in courtroom cases or anything like that?
There's not a lot of aha moments in real life. People watch Law and Order, and they watch, in the old days, they watched Perry Mason, and actually, lawyering just involves attention to detail and, frankly, integrity and the desire to do something right, to do something that helps somebody. And that's the way I've conducted my practice, and it's worked out.
Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts on LA Law back in the day?
Never watched it. I was too busy working.
Yeah, some people actually got their inspiration from LA Law, getting into a law school where the number of enrollments went up. But after the OJ trial, it's like the number of enrollments went down. That's why I asked that.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. I remember, they always say you remember where you were. Of course, you got to be old enough that you remember where you were when JFK was shot. And I have that same recollection of where I was when the OJ verdict was announced. And I disagreed with it, but I wasn't on the jury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then again, it's like there are some things I didn't certainly agree on, and we'll talk more about off the air as well too. And then going from being a lawyer, and you got back into your musical career in 2009. And what was that one moment that got you back into your musical career?
Well, it was, as we talked about, it was the periodontist that did the album that I met on a trip, and I thought, this is something I could do. I never thought about it. I'd done lots of recording at home or in somebody's basement, and this was back when everything was analog, and it was okay. It wasn't radio ready. It's nothing that, you would want to spend much time trying to sell. But I thought it'd be really nice to hear this stuff polished up, and I liken it to a playwright who actually sees his work presented on stage. You start with a bunch of words on paper, and you're pretty sure it's good. I'm pretty sure it's gonna entertain people, but there's nothing like seeing it come to life, and that's the way I felt when we actually started going into a real recording studio with a good engineer, good musicians, and I thought, yeah, some of this stuff sounds pretty good. Maybe maybe I'm onto something.
And you also did a long way back to town, also way out west, just wait, 12th Street Serenade, the Tavern Song, Jenny's Song, and more. And tell us about those songs and what inspired you to write them.
Jenny's Song, which maybe is my favorite recording, is one of those songs that's based. It's entirely fact based. It was somebody that I dated for a while, and she was widowed at 42 because of kidney failure, but it was a bad marriage. But she took care of him. She was a nurse, and so that's basically the story. It talks about losing the husband, the fact that she wasn't really grieving, because she'd gotten over him a long time ago, and it dealt with the issue of how soon after you lose a spouse is it right to date. And the song talks about, now's the time. You don't have to wait. You don't have to care about what anybody else thinks. And the final line of the chorus is, Jenny, go on out and find your man. Which interestingly, I came up with that line like 30 years ago, that exact line. And ultimately I met someone named Jenny. and yeah, I think that's true of a lot of songwriters, is you make little notes. I'll be riding around in the car and there'll be just one sentence that comes into my mind. And I go, I'm not sure what I'll ever do with it, but I'm not going to forget it. So I make a note.
And write them on paper, write them on napkins, or have a notebook by a bed. It's like, that's a really common practice.
Yeah, because it is. And unfortunately, I haven't written down every thought I've ever had. And every so often, out of nowhere, I'll think, I know I came up with this lyric at some point. And sometimes if I try hard enough, I think I can kind of recall it. And other times it's just unfortunately lost in the ether somewhere. But that's one of those songs where I can point to the person, I can point to the events and say, I tried my best to capture this. And she was blown away. She said, she says, you've only known me a few months, and played it for all her friends. It was that. So that's where that came from. Long Way Back to Town is sort of a reprise of the first album's title track, Dark Stretch of Road. It's just about somebody who's, in the song, he's sort of like lost physically and geographically. He's out, basically in a snowstorm that's so thick that he doesn't even know where he is. He just knows he's a long way from safety and security. But it's metaphorical because it's really about what he's feeling inside, that he's sort of lost emotionally, he's lost psychologically. And, the song, it's not upbeat. It's not upbeat, but I think it's it's genuine. It's what I was feeling at the time, and that's where that came from.
Many of it's also from the heart as well, too. Plus, Way Out West, Just Wait, 12th Street Song, and the Tavern Song. Talk about that.
Yeah, the Tavern Song, again, that came out of a dating relationship, and I met this woman early on, and we had a lot in common, but there were some issues. Distance was one of them, and so most of the relationship was just meeting for dinner at an old stagecoach stop on US 40 near Columbus, and so that's what it's about. The tavern was called the Red Brick Tavern. I'm not sure if it's still open or not. In the song, it ends up being closed. That's the last verse is that the tavern's dark, and so that was another song that was based on a real person, based on real events, based on real places.
And certainly did as well too. And plus, we can find all the music as well too. We'll talk about the other two songs, including one we'll be playing at the end of the interview with Tim Tide Midnight Sky. We'll get that in just 1 minute. You're listening to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Moses of Missing, also brought to you by Elam Mythical, think tank of the future. The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, now on Amazon, and High 10 Music with her latest at high10music.com. We'll be back with the multi-talented Tim Tye of Midnight Sky with Last Hope of the Modern World after this time out. We're back to the multi-talented Tim Tye of Midnight Sky here on the Mike Wagner Show with Last Hope for the Modern World. And let's get to one of the other songs we might throw in there with Every Now and Then, and tell us more about that.
Every Now and Then is one of those songs that's not based on anything. I had the chorus bouncing around in my head for probably 20 years. And every so often I'd sit down and I'd try to come up with a verse. I'd mess around with it. Nothing happened. And as so often the case, one day I thought, okay, now I know what I want to do with the verse on this. I wrote two verses, and I kind of looked at it as a throwaway because it's just sort of poppy, but I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about it. I think it's just maybe because it is just a positive, fun song. It's about being in love. That all I really want to do is spend 1,000 lifetimes loving you. It's an old sentiment. I thought I had a slightly different way of describing it, and I think it worked out.
A lot of things I've noticed too, that people write songs about 5-10 minutes thinking, nah, it's not gonna happen. It turns out to be like a huge hit, but then when you put your work into it, it doesn't do anything. So anything spontaneous, it's almost like you never know. So I think you got a pretty good one. And plus the title track as well too, Last Hope for the Modern World. And tell us more about that and when inspired to write it.
I came up with the title probably a couple years before we put the album out. It's one of those things, I don't know where it came from, but I thought it was kind of a cool title. We were about done recording, and I hadn't written a song that you would call the title track. And you don't have to. I mean, I could have called the album Last Hope for the Modern World without a song with that name, but I started thinking, with a title like that, you could go in different directions emotionally. I mean, it could have been a very, very downbeat song. That's when I thought, okay, love's the last hope for the modern world. We're gonna, we're gonna turn this thing around and make this positive. And again, it's the topic is nothing new. I mean, the Beatles did, all you need is love.
Right.
That's essentially the message. Again, I tried to come up with a somewhat different way of looking at it. I think that's another one that really turned out well. There's some fabulous guitar work on there. That's not mine. It's a guy named Chad Burton. And his wife, Nicole Garza, is doing the vocals. And then I had myself a title track, and it was a wrap on the album.
That is certainly interesting. And where can we find all your music at, including your latest release, Last Hope for the Modern World?
Well, my website is midnightskymusic.com, and I'm on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, etc.
Okay. All right. Well, certainly check that out. We're here with the multi-talented Tim Tye of Midnight Sky here on the Mike Wagner Show with Last Hope for the Modern World and just a few more things. Tim, what else can we expect in 2024 and beyond, especially going into 2025?
Well, right now I think this is probably worth mentioning. I was nominated for a couple of awards this year. The first one was I was a finalist for the International Singer-Songwriter Association Band Album of the Year. That was last month. Didn't win, but it was just fabulous to be nominated and to be able to go to the award show. I'm also up for Male Country Album of the Year for the Josie Awards, which is at the Grand Ole Opry at the end of October. So, some real positive things have happened this year. Um, I'm working on a couple of singles right now. One of them is going to be a big band swing type thing, completely different approach. I first recorded this song back in the '90s using a Roland synthesizer and analog and everything. And this time I've got a real horn section. It's taken a while to bring everything together, but I think I'm gonna put that out probably by the end of this year.
And so that's really interesting. I happen to like big band, and if you keep this up to date, Don, we'd love to have you back about the big band. That is wonderful news. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
In what, please?
Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Well, if you look at my legal career, it was my mother, and she wasn't a huge music fan, but I was very fortunate to have somebody who just encouraged me. I mean, so many people have, unfortunate relationships with their parents, abusive, just kind of, loveless. And, I had parents who supported me and encouraged me. I worked with my mother for 22 years. So I would say that's my biggest single influence, even though it wasn't directly a musical influence. It was that positivity, that notion that, Tim, just, if you think it, try it, get out there and do it. And, don't worry about what the rest of the world thinks. Don't worry about whether or not it's a long shot. Just get out there and try. And that's what I've been doing.
And that's really good advice as well. And what is the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
If we're talking about musicians, and I know I'm probably going to step on a few toes here, but try to go beyond being a cover band. I've been in cover bands. I go watch cover bands. I've got lots of friends in cover bands, but people in cover bands, a lot of them are extremely talented, but that's not really creative. I think it's very important. To some extent, being in a cover band is like forging art. A guy says, "Look, I created this. It looks like Rembrandt did it." I mean, even experts can barely tell. That person is very talented, but that wasn't creative. And I think that there's just something you get. It's hard to describe. It's sort of one of those imponderable things from actually making something out of nothing. And writing music is the best example. I mean, there's nothing. There's not even like in painting. You start with a canvas. In writing music, you start with nothing, and with a little bit of luck, you come up with 3 or 4 minutes of something that either is inspiring, entertaining, maybe life-changing. So that's my advice: is whatever you're doing, don't always be copied. Don't just even if it's not that great, try to create something, because you're gonna feel good about yourself when you do it.
That is really good advice. I like that one. We're here with Tim Todd, Midnight Sky, with Last Hope for the Modern World here on the Mike Wagner Show, occurs MTS Records. Tim, a very big thank you to time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'll love to have you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your music?
MidnightSkyMusic.com is the website, and all platforms I'm on. And frankly, I'd love to get an email, ttye53@gmail.com.
All right.
You will get a response.
And certainly guaranteed as well, too. Once again, Tim, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We love having you back. We wish you all best. And Tim, you definitely have a great future ahead.
Thank you so much.